Okay, so you're a renter in a dimly lit dungeon and you want to create an ambient, elegant chateau. Well, lucky for you, I have the realistic, renter-friendly solutions you need to light the home of your dreams. Welcome back to Laugh Cry DIY. I am Katie, and on this channel, we do home decor DIYs, we do room makeovers, and I personally fight the long, bloody war against landlord restrictions. And today's video is a long requested video from my subscribers who want to know how to light their homes in a renter-friendly way without having to call an electrician. So today we're gonna deep dive into everything from how to light and layer a room with light, to the products and solutions that are available to you, as well as my own budget-friendly tips and real-life hacks to make it all happen. So if you're ready, let's spice up your lights. So first, let's talk about how to light a space in the ideal way. I have covered some of this in previous videos, but we're gonna go over it again just so that everyone's on the same page. So in general, in an ideal room, you are layering in 3 types of lighting. You have overhead lighting to light the general space. You have task lighting around the room to light different specific tasks. And you have general accent lighting to highlight certain features or just create a general mood. And I like to think of these as levels in a room. So you have your up high overhead light, then like halfway down the room, you have a lot of your task lighting, like lamps or sconces. And then accent lighting is lower. Maybe it's a little lamp on a bookshelf or a little coffee table candle. It can also be up higher, but just in general, high, medium, low. That's a helpful way to layer in lights. Really, your goal is just to avoid having a single bare bulb in the ceiling that makes everything look like an interrogation room, and it makes you and everyone you love look hideous. Now, obviously you can hire an electrician to swap any lights in your house, but I'm gonna assume that you are cheap or lazy or just don't wanna do it, and I support that. So today I'm gonna walk you through ways to either adapt the lighting you have, enhance it, or add more lighting to make it cuter or more functional. Now, before I dive in, let me also take a moment to invite you to bulb chat. There are many bulbs on the market today that are either like standard, hardwired, or wireless or rechargeable. Shout out to the brilliant engineers who invented wireless and rechargeable bulbs for us. So you have many options. You can get regular bulbs, or you can get remote controlled bulbs. There are also rechargeable or battery operated bulbs that require no wiring whatsoever. You can also get puck lights, which are little tiny like peel and stick bulbs. And you can also get decorative bulbs, which may have a different kind of color or silhouette, and I'll talk more about that later. These days, many of these options are, again, rechargeable, battery operated, or most delightfully, color changing, which I personally love very much. But before we go further, let me say this. If there is one thing that you take away from this video, it is this. Your bulbs should always be warm white. It will say that on the box. Warm white. That is how you get a cozy glow. That is how you maintain your bewitching beauty. You only need to get a bright white bulb if you're cleaning up a crime scene. Otherwise, warm white only. On that note, I will be linking a ton of things in the description of this video. I have my Amazon lighting list, which I curated with a bunch of these products. I'm also providing links to a bunch of other products I'll be talking about. So now that we've covered all that, let's jump into all the different lighting types you may have, you may adapt, or you may want to add. Starting with the boob light, AKA a flush mount. It's called a flush mount because it sits flush with the ceiling. Boob lights are so common, and yet they don't make your place more sexy. Luckily, you can swap or mask your boob lights in some cool ways to either bring in more mood or kind of make it fit more of your aesthetic. One of the easiest ways to improve them is just to add a piece over it. There's a company called Tulip. They make boob light shade covers that you simply command strip to the ceiling. It's super easy, it's super low effort, and it's super effective. You can also do this yourself by adding little like hooks to a lighting piece and just sticking them into your ceiling. In previous makeovers, I cut down the top of a classic rice paper lantern and used mini hooks to attach it to the ceiling around the bulb. I love doing this because it diffuses the light in a beautiful way. Plus, those types of lanterns are like everywhere, they're super cheap. And if you're gonna cut one down, just make sure that you're using heatless LEDs and that you're giving enough space around the bulb so that nothing overheats. You can also totally swap the cover of your boob light. This is a cool woven boho shade from Amazon that adds a really nice texture. They also make flush light conversion kits so that you can add your own like drum lamp shade. This is a super cute striped one from Urban Outfitters that comes with its own kit. You could also use a standalone kit with your own drum shade that you maybe thrifted or bought somewhere else. If you're gonna do this, one great tip is to get a lampshade diffuser. These are these inserts that you can put on top or underneath a lamp to diffuse the light so that it's not just a bare bulb above you. Another thing about flush mounts is that you want them to be to scale with the space. So you don't want something that's like way too big and overpowering or really tiny and dinky. And here's a really easy way to calculate how wide your light fixture should be. So you take the square footage of the space. So let's say it's a 10 by 10 room. You add those numbers together and convert it to inches. So 10 by 10 is 20. We're just gonna say it's 20 inches. So when you're going to light that space, you want a light fixture that's at least 20 inches in diameter. Is that genius? Yes, it is. All right, moving on from flush mount lighting, let's talk about canned lighting, also known as recessed lighting. This is really popular in new builds, very popular in condos. And although it is very practical and tactical, it is not always the cutest or most delightful. Luckily, you don't necessarily have to live with canned lighting. You can hack it with a canned light converter kit that they also sell online. This can let you turn canned lighting into a pendant or a flush mount. Converting it to a flush mount can be a little bit more intimidating and is a little more advanced DIY, but converting it to a pendant is a little bit easier. And again, just like a flush mount, you could also command strip something over it or hook something into the ceiling around it. Obviously, often in a room, there's multiple canned lights, so you wouldn't want to do that on everything, but I'm just letting you know if you can't live with your canned lights. So now that we've covered boob lights and can lights, let's talk about my favorite type of overhead lighting, which is swag lamps and pendants. And for clarity, pendants are usually hardwired and they are lights that hang down. Swag lamps are usually plug-in and they're meant to be swagged up on a hook. And honestly, you can use both as overhead lighting or task lighting, or just to create a really cool little mood. Personally, I love swag lamps the most because they're just flexible. You can just pop a hook in the ceiling and make them work however you need. Now, there's usually two types of swag lamps. That's lamps that are already meant to be plugged in and swagged. Or my fave, you can just get an individual cord and light, and you can add it to any light fixture you want. They're really great to create visual vignettes in your house, and they can add cool texture, whether they're metallic or glass or paper. For example, you can swag one over your dining room table and make it its own moment. You can also swag one in a corner over a chair or a sofa. They're also great in a bedroom, especially if you want to save space on the nightstand. You can actually just suspend them instead and they look really cool. Personally, I really love vintage swag lights. Look at this 60s swag lamp I found on Etsy. You also don't have to just use one swag lamp. You can cluster them to create their own visual moment, like these gorgeous ones from Roofat Lights. You can get plug-in chandeliers. In a previous mid-century inspired makeover, I did a plug-in Sputnik chandelier to get some really good overhead light in the room. You can also turn a lot of objects into swag lamps. For example, in my own office makeover, I turned a thrifted basket into a swag lamp. For another makeover, we thrifted lampshades and turned them into a fringe chandelier. It's also very popular to do pendant or swag lamps over a kitchen island. And you can easily hack these with, again, wireless bulbs or by gluing little puck lights into them and putting them on a remote. Now, of course, if you're doing plugins, we need to talk about the horror, the terror, the trauma of cluttered cords. There are a few ways to approach this. Sometimes you want to lean in and make the cord stand out. The Color Cord Company has a ton of lighting options, including these colored cords for $44, which is fairly budget friendly and can make a really cool statement. You can also cover cords with different materials like burlap or linen. And if you want to hide your cords, using cable cord covers like you'd use for TV cords is a really smart idea. And you can make them disappear even more by painting them, which is something that Jen of Yellow Cottage Living did to keep her cords clean. I've also wrapped cords in colored electrical tape to make it disappear a little bit more. You're not going to want to remove that tape, but it is a good option if you need a cheap hack. To be honest, more and more I'm getting annoyed with cords, and I'm either wrapping the cords into the original light base or I'm just cutting them off. Sorry, not sorry. Now let's turn our attention from hanging lamps to just good old-fashioned regular lamps. Regular floor lamps can also serve as overhead lighting. If you don't have a flush mount or you don't want to drill more holes in your ceiling, just get a really tall and dramatic floor lamp with a nice arm. Pro tip, if you're doing a lamp in lieu of overhead lighting, I would get something that had a drum or a shade on it so that it's not just a bare bulb in a glass globe. That shade's just going to diffuse the light in a prettier way so it's not just in your face, you know? You can also get something like this multi-tier dimmable floor lamp, which gives you more options to control the mood, because although overhead lighting is functional, it can be a little harsh. As Mariah Carey famously says, "Ugh, I can't with the overhead lighting." Again, if you want ambiance, you want a lot of different levels of light. So obviously lamps are important for task lighting to illuminate things that you're doing, whether that's reading or working at your desk. So you want to put those where they're most functional, but there are also other places to put them that just look cool. You can put them on a console table for some really nice symmetry. My grandma just has 2 of them on top of her mid-century hutch. You can also use them to frame a sofa, which I think is great, especially if you have really bold or colorful lamps. If you want a more casual, eclectic vibe, it's really cool to use 2 mismatched lamps to frame a bed or a sofa. I also love smaller lamps in unexpected places. They look really cute placed on a kitchen counter. You can also tuck one in your bathroom. They even make adorable waterproof shower lamps for more ambiance, which is really cool. And if you live in a small space as a renter, you can also find lamps that work double duty as a piece of furniture. Like, I love this floor lamp that has a built-in side table. And you can also get ones that have a shelf built into this. You should also think of lamps as not just light, but decor pieces on their own. You can look for really interesting silhouettes. Like, this wavy lamp looks like a gorgeous sculpture on its own. I did a Western themed bedroom in an Airbnb, and we decided to use this lamp where the base was actually antlers. It was just a cool, fun detail, and things like a lampshade base can easily be overlooked, but I think they're a really cool opportunity to get creative. I also love whimsical lamps, like this cute little robot lamp you could put on a shelf. Again, also think about mixing in different textures, whether that's like wood or glass or stone. And please, 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 don't overlook your lampshades. A plain white lampshade next to a plain white wall just completely disappears. And it's sad because lampshades give you so much opportunity to play with like color and pattern and texture. You could use something like a pleated lampshade to add a little bit more interest, or use a velvet or fringe lampshade to get some more texture. And a pattern lampshade can also add more personality. Also, I love a lampshade with a metallic lining. You can either buy them like that or like spray paint the inside of something gold. That's just a little detail, but it adds a really pretty golden glow that you might not think about. Now, obviously you can buy lampshades or you can DIY them, and there's a ton of ways to sass them up. You can cover them in fabric or Mod Podge. You can add cool trim or fringe details. I've also painted a little lamp before just to give it a little pop of color and pattern. And of course, if you are a very hardcore DIYer, don't forget that you can turn anything into a lamp with a lamp converter kit. I have to shout out Clay and Rory of Keep It Light on Instagram. They are doing a brilliant series called Will It Lamp, where they take all sorts of thrift store items and turn them into lamps. I am desperate to do this in a future episode, so stay tuned. Lastly, when we talk about lamps, we always think of a traditional lamp with like a base and a lampshade, but there are a lot of really cool like globe lamps that can add some serious like mood and vibes to your room. I especially love the Fado table lamp from IKEA. It's plug-in and you can pop it anywhere you want. There are also some other like multi-sized globe lamps, including these larger globe floor lamps from Amazon that you could place anywhere. So, all in all, get creative with your lamps, put them everywhere. And now we are moving on to my favorite thing in the world, which is sconces. If you don't have a lot of space or you want to mix things up, use sconces on the wall. I think they're the most underused piece of lighting. They can sass up a little corner, they can fill in a dead space, and they're super functional. I did a nursery makeover where I added a little sconce next to the rocking chair for late night feedings. I also used one in a kid's bedroom to reduce the risk of knocking a lamp over. I also used sconces in an Airbnb to prevent drunk adults from knocking over lamps. And just like lamps, they're a really great framing device to like flank something. I've used them to flank a mirror or a sofa. They're especially great to frame a bathroom mirror. Also, sconces in a hallway are just very Phantom of the Opera. They're very vampiric, and I just really like that. With wireless lighting options, you can also just use a lot of things to kind of create a sconce. For example, you might use a candle holder or a plant holder or a little ledge. You could do battery operated candles, you could add a little puck light, and they're especially great for small spaces where you just have to maximize space. I have to shout out the most genius product ever, which is this rechargeable book sconce. You can pop it onto a bookshelf, you can slide it onto a side table. It is absolutely freaking genius. There's also a company called Pop Light that makes these cool little peel and stick sconces you can just pop anywhere. And although I love modern wireless electric options, I also just do love old school candle sconces. I added these vintage shell candle sconces to my vanity area for a little bit of glam. Even though I don't light them that much, I see them every day and it makes me really happy. Okay, moving on to accent lighting. Specifically, LED strips. Yes, in a room, you can add overhead lighting and sconces and lamps, but sometimes you just need mood and vibe, and that is where LED light strips come in. I feel like people these days really associate LED lights with like teenagers' bedrooms or clubs or spaceships, but they can be very useful and sophisticated, especially if you use them to backlight furniture. Here you can see that in addition to sconces, they've added LED strips behind this headboard, which gives a really nice glow. And honestly, you can throw these everywhere. You can use them to backlight a sofa. Also, backlit furniture makes you feel like you're in a luxury hotel room, so it just feels extra fancy, particularly if you're using what? Warm white LED strips. A lot of people run LEDs under cabinets in the kitchen, which you can do with peel and stick strips. This is also an opportunity to use remote control puck lights if you have certain things you want to showcase. You can also add LED strips to other types of shelving. Like, look at how cool this bookshelf looks with these strips on it. You can also use LEDs lower in a room. For example, you can see how they used them on both the cabinets up high as well as the baseboard down low. Those strips also look great down a hallway. You can use LEDs or puck lights to light stairs for more safety. And adding an LED mirror to a room can add both like mood and function. You can buy a built-in LED mirror that's either freestanding or you can mount it on the wall. You can also DIY hack this. In a closet makeover, we added LED strips to the back of a mirror to give that backlight effect. And here is a helpful tip. If you're using LED strips, they come in two versions. There's kind of a rope light version, or there's like the strips with a bunch of little like light dots on it. So ideally you want to use the rope light version because it's like inherently diffused and you get a more even glow than the little tiny dots. And speaking of tiny little points of light, let's move on to spotlights. I'm gonna group this next group of lights together as like spotlights or mood lights because they're really meant to spotlight a certain feature or object or to create really strong mood lighting. Spotlights are especially great for like up lighting and down lighting, depending on how you want to use them. For example, you can use picture lights to spotlight certain pieces of art or items in your home. These lights can be more traditional and classic or more modern and discreet, like these little tiny spotlights. I really love these tiny spotlights you can stick on the wall or on the ceiling or tuck away on the floor. They're very cool on the floor for uplighting plants, and if you do colored ones, it feels especially moody. Colored spotlights can also just be their own art. Like, I love the pink and blue uplights in this loft. It's a very simple ad that has a really dramatic effect. You can also get the very popular, very viral sunset lamp, which makes everything just glow a beautiful orange. I adore the way these cast onto the ceiling or wall, but I also just love orange lights. I have color changing bulbs in my own house. I always watch TV on with the orange bulbs. And as you can see here, my cat clearly loves it. Pro tip, if you've added in your overhead lighting and your lamp lighting and you're not sure where to add in accent lighting, turn on all the lights in the room and then look at where there are little shadows around the room. Those are the pockets, and that's where you want to add in more ambient or mood lighting. Now, on the note of accent lighting or mood lighting, I think it's very obvious that candles are like the #1 star of all time. I love real candles if they can be used safely, but I will say that the fake candle technology has evolved tremendously in the last 20 years. So there are a lot of good options, but there is one type of candle that will transform any space, and that is the lovely, the beautiful, the glamorous, the elegant taper candle. I love a taper in a sconce. I love a taper in a candelabra. I love a battery-powered taper. I have several throughout my home, and they look so realistic with their flickering wick. But let me tell you, if you want true glamour, if you want to be as extra and dramatic as possible, you have to check out the extra long tapers that are made by Creative Candles. They are so tall and dramatic. They also make a great gift. And again, lighting them will make you feel like a glamorous goth Victorian ghost, and that's everything I aspire to be. And speaking of candles and flames, that brings me to my last renter-friendly suggestion, which I guarantee you will not see on any other renter-friendly lighting videos. And that is freaking fireplaces. I've talked about this in previous videos. I'm gonna talk about it in future videos. I don't care if you're a renter, you should add a fireplace to your house. A fireplace is possibly the most beautiful lighting feature in any room, and you can add one not only in your living room, but in your bedroom. It makes it cozy, it makes it romantic, it can be a beautiful focal point in a room. Now, when I say fireplace, you might be thinking of the plug-in electric units with like the fake flame and everything. You can do those, but personally, I recommend buying or DIYing a faux mantle and filling it with candles, whether they're real or fake. You can totally just get mantles on Facebook Marketplace or in architectural salvage shops. You can also build your own with wood or foam. I built one in my house out of foam and faux brick, and I filled it with battery-powered candles, but it fools everybody who comes in. But if you can't find a faux mantle and you're like overwhelmed to build stuff, I have two brilliant hacks for you. You can take the top of an antique hutch and you can use that as a faux mantle. You can also create a very small, petite, very narrow mantle by using the frame of a very heavy old school mirror that was meant to go on top of a dresser. It already doesn't have the bottom portion on it. So you can like hang it on your wall and that'll just give you a few inches, and you can just put like one candelabra against the wall and it'll look really beautiful. Also, Whatever fireplace you do, if you paint it the same color as your wall, it will look even more cohesive and kind of like built in or custom. Honestly, my biggest agenda on this channel is to just push fireplaces into everyone's homes. And I'm almost done with this video, but this is my best tip for a fireplace. Put a mirror in the back portion of it, and then put the candles in front of that, and you will double the light with the reflection. You don't even have to like custom cut it to whatever the silhouette is. You can just place a cool antique mirror back there. You can see how they did that in this photo, and it is so freaking beautiful. So obviously we've covered a lot, but before we go, I have 2 more little tips for you. One is to switch not your lights, but your light switch covers. These tend to be very boring, very bland, and it is a very simple, easy, budget-friendly way to add a little personality. Shout out to Poppy and Honey, a really cute shop that makes adorable, colorful light switch covers in really fun patterns. And lastly, while we're talking about adding personality, one really cool thing you can do if you have a very simple light fixture is add a decorative bulb. You can get gold-tipped bulbs, which add a really beautiful glow. You can get cool vintage bulbs like Edison bulbs that just have a different silhouette. And even cooler, you can actually get sculptural bulbs. These are adorable pineapple-shaped bulbs that give you a different texture. There's also these strawberry-shaped bulbs in a different silhouette. These are especially cool if you have a lamp or a light with just a clear glass cover. That way you can see the bulb through it. And that, my dears, is everything I can tell you about renter-friendly lighting. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any tips I missed, if you have any cool products I don't know about, please share them below. I love to see hacks. There's always new products coming out that I don't know about, and I always really appreciate when you guys share what works for you. So, you can check out more renter-friendly playlists I have. I'll link everything below. If you guys like DIY and decor, I send out a monthly newsletter with a little roundup of projects and inspiration and cool ideas. It's not annoying, it's just like a fun little dopamine hit in your inbox. So thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, or if you didn't, feel free to like and subscribe. And again, if you used any of these tips or tricks, you can email me, you can DM me on social. I love to see pictures because let's just say they light up my life. Okay, I gotta go, bye.